Welcome to the Nate KG Podcast, a show dedicated to exploring the nuances of jump rope, where I talk with jumpers of all skill levels, backgrounds, and fitness goals. On this episode, I talk with my good friend Dec at DecMCC10 on Instagram. We recorded this episode on Dec's anniversary of jumping every single day for 3 years. Obviously, this guy knows a thing or two when it comes to consistency. Dec was one of the first people on the podcast, and we really dig into everything that's happened in the last year or so since we last spoke here. Spoiler, he's done a lot, and he has a lot of valuable things to say about training and long-term motivation. All of the show notes for this episode can be found over at natekg.com, and without further ado, please enjoy this interview with Declan McCarthy. Hey, Dec. How's it going?
I'm doing good, man. You?
Pretty good. We were having a fun chat beforehand, so already starting off with a bunch of laughs. This is a really fun. I mean, they're all fun episodes, but this one's a special because today marks exactly 3 years of you jump roping every single day.
Yeah.
That is absolutely phenomenal. And there's a lot that I want to go into on this podcast, but I mean, just congratulations, dude, because that is a massive achievement on so many levels.
Thanks. It means a lot. It doesn't feel like 3 years, but I'm sure we'll get into that. But I mean, the year since last year has gone so fast, and but I'm loving it and still going. So.
Yeah, dude, that's, I mean, I think, probably a good spot to kind of start things off would be to, I guess, answer like what you just said about it does not feel like 3 years, because, I was going to kind of go with more of, origin story of the hero Dec, but like, I think that going on that point might kind of illustrate the origin story anyway.
Well, to start off with, there's like two things I just want to get off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
One, can we guarantee that this will be the zestiest conversation anyone will have here?
Oh,
Nate? I mean, can we guarantee that? I think we can.
We're both talking, so I think we're already accomplishing that. I don't think that's even a question.
And the second thing is thanks again for having me back on the show, because I've been on twice before. Once on that interview one, and then one when it was your Ask Me Anything episode. And it's funny because I decided to re-listen to the first one because partly I wanted to make sure that I didn't bring anything up that we did last time, cover new ground and stuff. And I'm so glad I did, because listening to it, it gave me a time frame of when we recorded it, because I was listening to it and then I was like, I mentioned that I haven't got my first client yet. And I'm like, oh, right. So I've just become a PT, but I've not quite got my first client yet. Okay. And then I realized you hadn't met up with Bobby and Chris in LA yet. Uh-huh. So then I thought, well, this is then before my 2-year anniversary every day, because that day that you met up is when I Skyped in to say hi when it was the 2-year anniversary. So I was like, right. Then I went, well, wait a minute, then I haven't even sprained my ankle yet. So all that happens after that. And then it's funny, at the end of the podcast, you say, oh, I'd love to have you on in a year. And here we are a year and a couple of months later having that conversation.
Dude,
I bring that up.
Yeah, no, it's cool to have that perspective. And I'm really glad, man, that timing was really cool. I'm glad we talked when we talked, because that was such you were right at that pivotal moment, and it's going to be really fun to reflect on what all has happened. And it's funny you mentioned the 2-year mark when we were I was in LA, and we shot a vlog, which is on YouTube, and you can kind of, if people go there, they can see exactly what we're talking about in terms of, you Skyped in and we chatted a little bit that day. And it's funny because Bobby also mentioned or messaged me today and said like, hey man, it's been a year since we officially met. So apparently this day is a very important day. And of course this is being recorded on the 15th. It won't be published on the 15th, but it's being recorded on June 15th. So let's get into a few of the things that have happened in the last year. So let's start with with client work. I mean, a year ago, you decided to become a PT and start training people.
Yeah, yeah.
And so,
Uh,
how many, what has been the growth since last year?
well, I've had like, of course, it's like difficult now with everything that's going on in the world and stuff. But yeah, I've like gained a load of clients and I've been teaching them all jump rope. Every single client I've introduced jump rope to, so I'm glad for that. And yeah, I mean, of course, with everything that's going on at the moment, money's tight for people, and people are waiting for the gyms to open up again. So that's understandable. So I'm not training as many at the moment, but yeah, it's been going well. I mean, I've been loving my job. You know, my job's to help people learn how to, well, help people with the fitness, and I go through jump rope to do that, and do weights as well with all my clients and stuff. And you know, it's my job to teach people how to jump rope. So I'm as happy as I can be. I love it.
Has there been anything that you've learned that surprised you in the last year? And if not, we can move
Um,
past this, but I'm curious if there's anything that has surprised you that you've learned.
it's I guess it sort of taught me how to coach. Because of course, like when you go on a PT course and stuff, you learn all the well, as much knowledge as you can and stuff, but you're not really taught how to coach really, and how to convey information. And it's interesting, you know, how different people can learn in different ways, and how sometimes the right words or phrase will help people, or some people will learn it visually, like, or through you describing it better, or you know, it just, so I guess sort of learning how to coach, and it sort of taught me really.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's funny because yeah, you go through this whole program to become a certified personal trainer, but it's important and you need to know the information, but it's only like half of the journey, maybe even a quarter of it, just because like you're saying,
Mm.
the actual coaching part of it is it's very difficult to not only teach that, but it's also a completely new set of challenges. And so you're saying that that has
Mm.
been, one of the things that you've learned in the past year is, this
Yeah,
actually like working with clients and how to speak to different people.
yeah, because different people learn in different ways, and as we've spoken recently, just between me and you, we've talked about how about teaching online, and how that can be a whole different ball game as well, and how it can be restrictive, but people can still progress and learn through things like Zoom and stuff like that, where you know it limits you because you're not actually there with the person, and you're just looking at a camera feed. You can't move around the person, so you're reliant on either asking them to move, or you know, you might have to get clients to do things a couple of times to kind of see better. But yeah, that's been a whole different ball game as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ever since quarantine and the COVID uh, changes have happened, and obviously not being in a gym, it's been a really interesting so far, very interesting seeing how things have shifted. And to your point, especially with jump rope, because jump rope is one of those things like if you can just adjust your body or get around the other person and show something in real
Mm,
time a certain way, it can save you a lot of time,
mm,
comparatively speaking, in terms of like Zoom and digital. But on the same token, I've been finding that doing things digitally, if you strip away kind of your assumptions about how training should work
mm.
and approach it new, I've been finding a lot of actual benefits to training online compared to in person.
Yeah,
And it's been actually really really surprising because I used to think that there was no way you could train someone online effectively, and now I'm starting to see that actually online might be in some ways far more effective than in person.
yeah, and I sort of felt the same, because you know, I sometimes get messages of, oh, do you, before all this was happening, like, oh, do you train clients online? And I'd message back saying not at the moment, but it's something that I might look into. And of course, with the situation that we're in now, it's kind of forced me to do that. And I don't know. I mean, jump rope and doing like weight stuff, it's a bit different, but it's still, you can still do it. And even if, for example, the client can't see or this, that, and the other, you can always just film it and then send it them or email it them or WhatsApp it them, and then they can slow it down and go, oh, okay, and get a chance to analyze what you're trying to convey to them.
I think another one of the big benefits that I've been finding is that jump rope, unlike something like weightlifting, jump rope is one of those things where you kind of have to send your student off and say, "Hey, go do your reps, go work on it. Here's your tips, and then come back to me."
Yeah,
Because a lot of things legitimately do take like tens of reps, hundreds of reps potentially, just to kind of get through the motions and start to feel things out and
yeah,
understand how to work through it. And in that respect, I found it very time efficient to say like, hey, you're like you said, send me a video. Awesome, you're doing this. These parts are good. Adjust
hmm
these things. Go put in this many reps, and then come back at the end of the week, end of the month, whatever. And
yeah,
it seems to be working really well.
yeah, exactly. And I think with jump rope is like you say, it's one of those things where you have to put the time in, like otherwise it'll take you even longer to sort of get used to it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas lifting weights, you can give people the cues and stuff, and then they'll do it right, and then it's sort of that's it. But
Mm-hmm.
with a kind of skill based thing, it takes time to sort of figure things out, like you say.
What's been one of the more exciting moments as a trainer? Because I know you've had a few where it's been very fulfilling and very fun. I'm curious what one or two of those has been.
It's always seeing people do things that they think that they can't.
Mm-hmm.
That I love. I can think of so many instances, whether it be a skill like a trick they're trying to learn, or if they just come into the gym and they just go, they go, oh, Dad, I'm not feeling great. Like I just don't feel like I have the energy. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. And then they go and smash out the session as if nothing was wrong.
Yeah.
And it's just great to see, like, when people are like, oh, and when they don't have the faith in themselves, but that they can do it,
Mm-hmm.
and that you can get it out of them. And then, I've had clients come up to me and say, oh, I love your sessions and I love that. Thank you so much. And just because you can see things that they can't, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Where, and I love that. I remember one session where a client was getting double unders, and we just got double unders, and we were coming in to start a new session. And they were like, "Oh, I don't know if I can do it," and this, that, and the other. And yeah, I got it last time, but I don't think. And then straight away, bang, they got it out. And that's what I love, is just seeing people learn new things. And especially when they put all that effort and seeing it pay off. That's what I love.
So, what do you think are some important qualities of a jump rope coach? Because there are there are several, if not many, out there right now.
Yeah.
A lot of people teaching jump rope, whether professionally or just kind of as a result of being active on Instagram.
Mhm.
What do you think are some important qualities of a jump rope coach?
Um, Patience is probably one.
Yeah, it's
I've had,
definitely one.
I've,
If you don't have patience, you're not going to be able to get through a lot of the trouble spots. That's for sure.
yeah. The thing is, I've been there, so I understand, and I've seen it where people are getting frustrated, and I'm like, no, you've got this. Just take your time. Don't worry. But that's definitely one which I'm okay. I've said to clients, I'll repeat and what's it called, as much as you want, or demo stuff as much as you need.
Mm-hmm.
To help you get it. It's fine with me. So definitely patience is one. It's giving them the right teaching points, but not overloading them with teaching points as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think sometimes people will overthink every point that you said,
Yeah.
and then they just it just goes out the head, and they just don't know what they're doing. So I think drip feeding them teaching points to, like I say, sometimes it's just the odd one where there's a certain phrase or a certain way that you put something or will help them get it or understand it. But it's finding the right ones and not overloading them straight away. Because even if you say some and then they partially get it, then you can go, right, well, from here, do this, less of this, and then introduce more that instead of going, right, double unders, core engagement, right, keep your elbows in, right, okay, you need to be jumping higher, you don't need to rotate your wrists as fast. If you're jumping lower, your wrists need to be faster. Okay, try and stay on one spot, an overload, they won't understand what they've got to do because they'll be thinking of everything and just won't get it. But if you tell them some of the points, let them try and then see how they're getting on and what they need to improve on or what they need to get it, then give them more teaching points.
Yeah, because what's so simple to you or to the jump rope coach is not simple at all to that person, and it's brand new. And what might be 2 or 3 words that are just passing through your head are that's an entire hour's worth of teaching material for another person. So
Exactly,
makes sense. Let's go back a little bit, because I suspect that there are probably people who haven't listened to the first time we've chatted before, especially because I think that was one of the very first episodes I did.
It was your fourth one, actually.
Yeah. So
yeah.
There's been many since then. Let's get into the origin story of the hero deck. Where, I guess, to answer some of the same questions over again, why did you even pick up a jump rope in the first place?
Well, so basically, it's because I became obese due to I suffer from OCD and I got depression around when I was 18, and I gained a bunch of weight and was over 20 stone. Once I had therapy and was able to manage my depression and my OCD, I wanted to get back into shape. So the simplest, answer is often the best one. So typed into Google what burns calories, and jump rope came up.
Just like that.
And as we've talked about before, like I'm a big Rocky fan, and I tried skipping in the past. Funnily enough, I mentioned it on the podcast last time. Like I joined a boxing class, like because of Rocky and stuff when I was younger, and saw people jumping rope and tried when I was younger, but wasn't good at it. I recently went outside that boxing gym, actually, very recently, when I've not been there probably since I was a kid going to those classes. But so I had an interest before, but like most people, when they try a new skill and can't get it, they put it down. But I thought, let's give it another go, and I just loved it. I just thought it was great. I just thought it didn't feel like exercise to me, and it just felt fun. And
did you play the Rocky theme song when you were jumping?
Oh, no, of course. That's my ringtone.
Okay,
good. But yeah, like literally, I love jump rope, and as I've gone on, at first it was a weight loss journey, but then now it's just getting as good as I can, and just trying to progress through there, really.
That's really great, dude. I'd kind of like to. I'm wondering if has anything changed in the way that you view jump rope, from not necessarily the beginning of jumping, because obviously when you first start, there's a lot that you don't understand. But you're 3 years in now. Let's take 6 to 10 months into jump roping, that little cross section of time versus now. I guess what has been, I guess, some of the more impactful things you've learned, 1 to 3 things that I guess you've learned since then.
Well, I think definitely that, it's changed for me how I looked at it, because first it was a fun form of exercise, but then, like I said, now I want to learn as many, skills as possible. So, when it was once just sort of I've gone down a different sort of avenue. And some people, it's just a form of fitness, and that, which is great. But for me now, it's become much more than that. I love to teach people how to jump rope, and I love to learn more, and I'm trying to get better and better and learn as many skills as I can. It's funny, I get asked a lot of questions, whether it be about fitness or about about losing weight, or whether it's about jump rope, or whether it's about, and I'm sure you've experienced this yourself, Nate, but you you tell people like the information, and like I say, I don't pretend to be a pro. I have experience, but I don't pretend to be a pro, because I'm not. I don't think I am. But I have experience in weight loss, or in jump rope and weights, etc. But I'm sure you've experienced this, where people have asked you for information, and then you give them the information, and then they don't do anything with it,
Mm-hmm.
or they don't listen to what you're saying.
100%.
And for me, if a student comes to a teacher and asks how to solve a problem, or asks for knowledge, and then the teacher gives them that knowledge, but then the student doesn't do anything,
Mm-hmm.
then the student isn't ready to learn that lesson.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then they're not ready to use it. And
I'm getting some
I,
Eastern philosophy vibes here, dude.
but it's funny, because some people will, and they'll run with it, and that's
Right.
great, and some people won't. But I've been reading a lot about skill acquisition and
Mm-hmm.
skill, which is like by accident, but it's kind of made a lot of sense, because
Mm-hmm.
it was I'll have to send you the article, but it was saying basically that to learn a new skill, there has to be some sort of belief that you can get better at it for you to act on it. Otherwise, if the person doesn't have any belief that they'll improve or learn the skill, then they won't pick it up. They'll leave it.
That's interesting. The,
Um,
the the item there is yeah, belief in themselves, that self-esteem that they can do it.
yeah, and that
Or
even
or even
when
or even the perception of the difficulty of the skill.
yeah, and that even when they are facing times when they're not getting a skill, or difficult, or setbacks, or something, they'll still continue on, because they know that their efforts will pay off,
Mm-hmm.
because they believe that if I put that time and effort in, then it will pay off.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to if you don't, then they'll just leave it, and that they're more, um, if they do receive criticism, or just people trying to help, then they will more likely see it as a way to get better, and not as a someone pointing out their, you know,
Chastising them. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think because a lot of people, like in this, a lot of people have picked up jump rope recently with everything that's going on, and training at home, etc. And it's been incredible seeing people pick up and run with it. Uh, yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that, because like we talked about this graph of skill acquisition. I want to say it's sometime last year. I remember I think
Mm.
I think I sent you a picture of a little graph I drew in a notebook or something. I'm pretty sure
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And what you're saying reminds me of, like, with any skill, you there's like this graph of, like, the line starts to go up a little bit, and you're like, oh cool, this is a new skill, and you make a couple of incremental gains, and then it gets hard because you hit your
Mm,
first major roadblock, and that graph drops down severely,
mm,
and you climb your way up and up and up, and you finally find yourself at a point where, it's like you get to a point where you know that there are things that you don't know, and
yeah.
you are able to articulate what those things are that you don't know, and then from there the graph starts to steadily rise. And I think with jump rope, and with any skill really, you rise and rise and rise, and then you plateau for a little bit, and then you rise and rise and rise, and you plateau for a little bit, and that continues to happen, probably in varying proportions, but it continues to go up that way. But to your point, the whole time you're going up. You're always
Yeah.
trending upward, even if you have a momentary dip or a plateau.
Exactly.
And I
Yeah.
think it's funny, because like that kind of a mindset is something that I think would be a lot more difficult for me to not understand, but to internalize, if I wasn't trying to learn other things. I think a lot of the reason why, back to your point about patience, the reason why I have a lot of patience with people, definitely experience is a huge piece of that. But I think, I've even tried learning new things that are completely foreign to me, not things that are within my wheelhouse, not like I can deadlift and today I'm going to go try to learn a snatch. Like that's way too close. That it already makes sense. I'm talking like something completely different. And in doing that, like I felt the struggle of like, this is completely brand new. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I have more questions than I could possibly even convey to someone, and understanding that in the context of jump rope really, I think really is the way a coach should be.
Yeah.
They should understand, they should, I think one of the best ways to be a great coach and to remain a great coach is to be in a constant state of learning something new that is genuinely new, and to constantly expose yourself to the, oh shit, what is this? I don't even understand any of this. And if you're in that state, not like every single day, but like consistently over time, if you expose yourself to that and keep it front of mind, that will provide a lot of the patience needed for your clients, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Exactly. No, it's like even with these, like you've been doing combos recently with just different combos every day and sort of stuff, and I've loved doing them because it's gotten me to come out of my comfort zone a bit more and do not only just different tricks that I may not know, or just tricks that in a different sequence where it's made it harder than what it would be if I was to separate them, and it's just made it more. I think honestly, it's made me a better jumper just in the past month, just doing those tricks, like those combos, sorry, which I've loved doing, because like I say, it's even though like some of them may be like a toad or this, that, and the other to this and this, and even though I can do those tricks separately, it's doing them in a sequence that I'm not used to, where I'm having to learn to do that, which I've honestly, like, I love them. So I just want to also say thanks for that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad that they're helpful. It's fun to, a lot of the way I kind of go about those is thinking like, I don't necessarily spend a lot of time crafting a tutorial out of it. That's not the point, but
Mm,
I do think a lot about, what are the principles of jump rope that the person is going to learn out of this. And I think you, of all people, definitely stick out among some of the most, not only active with the combos, but the most thorough learners, because like, not, not only do you do every combo, but you do them every combo on both sides and backwards like a
and backwards
madman.
both sides.
Yes, backwards both sides. And it's crazy when I mean, it's cool because not only has your skill gotten, your skill level has risen, but it's just crazy to see your rotted, like, because you do like skills like TS's backwards, and I can do a TS backwards, but I don't want to do a TS backwards. But
Neither do
you,
I, Nate.
but see, that's the thing is like you have the determination and the discipline to get out there and get it done, and I think that's really, really cool.
But on one thing I want to mention is like we've said, a lot of jumpers that have come out of this situation. Lauren, I think it's Lauren dot jumps, is definitely one to look at, because honestly, their progression, it's been insane to watch. They started jumping as we went into lockdown, and it's just incredible to see how fast people can progress when they put their mind to it and stuff.
Well, and it's kind of that's a couple, you're hitting on a couple different things too. Like people progress quickly when there's great information available. And
Mm,
one of like my big focuses with jump rope has been, like I've talked before, about bridging the gap of knowledge.
yeah,
And I think that, and it's definitely not just me, but that's kind of been, when I think about all the things that I do, that is the theme that runs through my motivation to get certain work done. And I think that we're in a spot right now that, because everyone is home and because people have been home,
mm,
there is so much information available and so much like people time available. People are willing to be on DM or to go on a live or like just chat over the phone. And
yeah,
when that happens, to me, it seems like it's getting very equivalent to the idea of having a virtual team. Because when you have all of these people that are at your skill level and a little bit greater and a little bit lower, which with all the people on Instagram, that always will exist.
Hmm.
Um, you're just in a good spot to constantly be learning and experimenting and playing around. And I think that, yeah, to your point, that is, one of the things that has helped and why we see so many people jumping on and getting good quickly. It's a lot of the
Yeah.
reason why, like, younger jump rope athletes, like, 13 and younger, pick up skills extremely quickly, in part because they're just like Gumby and they can figure it out, but also because they're usually surrounded by people who are doing things that seem impossible to them, but who constantly remind them that it is possible. Back to your point about skill acquisition and thinking that it's doable. And I think that what we're seeing is very much a virtual version of that same principle that leads younger jump rope competitive athletes to learn really quickly. We're now seeing that replicated in a different environment for adults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like when I first started, it wasn't for skill acquisition, but now it is. So it's like I only learned the basic things first, and then just sort of stayed at a sort of level. But then as time goes on, like we've mentioned before, it's changed.
Well, and there's a lot more availability now too.
Mm.
When you started 3 years ago, the jump rope landscape was far different. There was a much
Yeah.
greater chasm between people who were jump roping for the purpose of fitness and enthusiast reasons and the people who were jumping competitively. And
Yeah.
there was not, I mean, there were very, very, very few people who were in the middle ground. So yeah, but now we see everything blending together a lot more.
Mm.
I kind of on that point of blending styles and backgrounds in jump rope, the last time we spoke on the phone, we were talking about, well, we talked about a lot of things, but we were talking about kind of jump rope style. And we can skip past this if you want, and that's totally fine. But we were chatting how, you have a certain style and other people have a certain style that there is this undercurrent that you have to be clean with your skills. There's this
Mm.
like assumption that if you're jump roping, you should be trying to be as perfect as possible. And I've tried to clarify my message a lot in recent time, just because because that's not really my mission, but I can see how it can be misconstrued as that. Um,
Mm.
I want to talk about that because when we chatted last time, you told me your goal is not to be as clean as possible all the time. Your goal is to have fun.
Mm.
And, can you elaborate on that? And can we kind of revisit that conversation a bit?
Yeah. So for me, it's about as as well as getting a workout. It's about learning and just having fun. Like I love to just play music and just go for it. And like I love to jump quite fast and make it energetic and this, that, and the other. And that's just what I enjoy. I like to be in control, being out of control, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
but yeah, that's what I love to do. Like you asked me last time, like how would you describe your style? And I honestly didn't know. I guess maybe that's it. But I just love to have fun and just make it just like that's my time, me jumping. Like I love it and it's great. And I just love to blare music and go and just get a workout, but also have fun and just and learn. Um, and I think what we touched on last time was basically how we talked about how there's you mentioned it. I can't remember. It was when the difference between getting a skill and then getting a skill, completing a skill. That was it. And I can't remember the other part.
Yeah, training for completion versus training for efficiency.
That's it. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, and I think a lot of people, I don't
Blend the
know. I think
two.
there's,
They
yeah,
put them together and
exactly.
they try to do both at the same time and get frustrated.
Yeah. And I think, there's no, I mean, there's not really there's things that define a trick, but there's not things that, there's things that define a trick, but there's not things that define whether you're doing it right or not.
Hmm.
As in the sense of, yeah, we all know like a crisscross is, crossing your arms at hip height. So the rope crosses, goes you jump through it and then you open out into a regular single. But there's a difference between, like we've said, doing it to completion and doing it, for efficiency. Sorry. So some people may like to do a skill a little differently, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing it wrong. And I just think, like we've talked about, like some people do have different styles, and that can just be someone's style, the way that they prefer to do a trick a certain way, and it doesn't mean that they're doing it wrong. Because there's no real jump rope rule book, but there's it's basically having fun versus doing it, like you say, for efficiency kind of thing.
Yeah, and it comes down to like the context of why they're jumping in the first place. Like,
Mm.
if you're gonna judge, well, you shouldn't judge someone, but if you're in the spot where you're going to make an assessment on someone's performance in jump rope, you have to you have got to understand why they are there in the first place. And especially as a jump rope coach, and I've chatted, you and I have chatted about this before, but like a long time ago, like probably, what has it been? It's probably been like 3 to 4 years when I first started like really trying to be in all corners of jump rope. Like in terms of Instagram, I would leave comments and I'd be like, hey, this is great, you should change this, but keep going, you're crushing it. And I realized very quickly, like people don't want to be corrected. Like that's not like unless the person has specifically told you, hey, I want to get efficient at my skills, I want to be, at this level, please let me know what I need to do. Like you can't just jump in and tell them how to do it better, because like you're saying, doing it better is not everyone's goal.
Yeah, and as well as it's sort of a way as well to how you approach it as well. I've gone up to, like I've seen people jump in and I've gone, hey, I hope you don't mind me saying, but it was I remember specifically 2 instances. One, a guy was doing double unders and they were hiking in basically, and they were landing quite hard. So I went, hey, I hope you don't mind me asking. I hope you don't mind me telling you, I've got a bit of experience with jump rope. If you just jump a bit straighter and not try and hike in as much and land on the balls of your feet, it'll be a lot better for you. You won't feel any pain, because you might be feeling pain the way that you're jumping because you're landing hard, etc. You just went, all right, okay, and that was it. So I was like, okay. And there was another instance where I went over, so introduced myself, oh hi, and I said, if you want to do this, this, and this. And they didn't say anything. They just stared at me and literally said nothing. And I was like, okay, see you. So that was literally
really funny.
The conversation. Like, and funnily enough, that same person came up to me a few months later after they kind of found out that I know what I'm talking about, and said, and started asking me questions.
Yep. To add on to that, I've had similar experiences, especially when I've been at like the CrossFit games, like vending for our Smart Gear and stuff. And there's always on those trips, like we see like hundreds of people come through like the booth, in the past when they've done that. And and there's always a couple of, usually men, but sometimes women as well, who come through the booth, and we were posted up ready to answer questions and help coach a little bit. That's kind of the gig. That's the way RX ran it, is like we would help. And people would come in and like, hey, like I'm looking for this kind of rope. I'm like, sweet, that's cool. That seems a little bit long. Like we can kind of no, this is how I do it. All right, fair enough. And then they grab a rope, and I kid you not, it was like they were trying to like make their body look like a T. Like their arms were just straight out. They were jumping with a rope that was like 9.5 feet long, and they're like, 5'8", which does not match up. And they're just like swinging, and just like you can see every muscle in their body is being used. And I'm like,
yeah,
and I try. You knew. Yeah, you try one more time, and you're like, hey, so to make this a little bit more efficient, they're like, no, this is just the way that I do it, and it's what works for me, and it's the best way. And I'm like, hey, cool, this is the price. See you later.
But that's literally kind of circling back to our point. Is some people, like Jimmy, has his extraordinarily short his rope, and that's great. That's the way he prefers to jump, and some people just prefer it a certain way. So
Yeah, my only caveat to what we're talking about in terms of like, you do you, whatever your goal is, it's your goal, enjoy your fitness. I mean, that truly that does at the end of
yeah,
the day, that's the rule that rules them all. But my only caveat, little asterisk, is like there are some principles of jumping that no matter what your goal is, like you're saying, like if you're jumping up and you're kicking your feet forward and you're slamming the ground, like that is something that no matter how you're jumping, if you don't know you're doing that and you do not know how to control that, it is worth being coached on that piece. But yeah, when it comes to like style and how you approach it, like, and honestly, I feel like it's gotten a lot better in the recent months. Of like, I haven't seen nearly as many people showing up and being like, "Hey, this is good, but you need to change it." I've been seeing a lot more just pure support,
yeah,
which is
exactly.
really
That
cool.
which is the best of the community. That's what we like to see, and people helping each other and supporting each other and promoting each other. That's the good part of the community, the best part.
You've been jumping for 3 years every single day. That is, dude, that's a lot. That's a lot. And
Yeah,
and when you say you've been jumping every single day, you're talking about a legit workout. Like
yeah, yeah.
it's not always like, I'm
It's not
assuming.
like I do one single under and go done.
Right, exactly. Like, so what is your workout the same every day? It's more or less
Um,
like your time frame and stuff.
so if you're just talking jump rope wise,
Yeah.
yeah, it's probably about the same. Although with lockdown, it's extended even more because now I have
Hmm.
more time to do
Yeah.
it. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm jumping, yeah, a lot more. But yeah, I split it a bit differently now. I do probably the same that I do as a workout. I'll do the same as practice work. Like I'll always do a workout first, and then I'll do sort of practicing when I'm trying to get a trick or this, that, and the other, and then I'll film some stuff, and then I'll move on to the weights. So it's kind of equal the workout and practice time, and it's like probably during lockdown an hour on each, so an hour jumping, an hour practicing on different things. Today it was 3 hours. It wasn't like I was trying to hit three because of 3 years, but it just happened to be three.
That's funny, dude. So when we talked a while ago, you said that, or I think in the last podcast, you said you jump for a minimum of a half an hour. And when you say a
Yeah,
half an hour, that does not include the breaks. You're actually timing the
yeah,
amount of jumping you're doing. So is that still true now?
that's still true.
But you're going over
Uh,
that time a lot?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So
But like on any given day, you are at least hitting a minimum of 30 minutes of actual jumping, which usually I would imagine translates to at least an hour to an hour and a half of total time.
yeah,
Okay. That makes sense. So how do you I mean, the next logical question is, how do you do that every day, and also why? I think, you and I have spoken about this before, and I think we chatted about this last podcast as well, but I do want to revisit it for people who don't have the context.
like I honestly love it. Like I've said before, like I don't feel like my day started until I've done it, and I just love it. I love when my heart's beating out of my chest, and it makes me feel alive, and I honestly love the community and everything, and I just love to do it. And I started doing it every day because the guys who I watched tutorials of when I was first starting out, the jump rope dudes, they were then Zen
Hmm.
Do Fitness when I first started, but they had a phrase like "do your thing" sort of every day and stuff. And of course, they're not expecting anyone to do it every day, and they recommend rest and all this lot. But at first it was like, oh, I'll try and see if I can do it every day, and if I need a rest day or whatever, I'll do it. But I won't be too harsh on myself if I do. But I'll try and do it every day. And then I was just enjoying it too much, and then it got to a year, and then it got to 2 years, and then it just kept going. But I honestly love it. Of course, as time's gone on, I've had to warm up a bit longer, or I always make sure I stretch afterwards, but make sure I get a good stretch. But yeah, that sort of kept me going. And yeah, I just even when I sprained my ankle. I still jumped, which I was sensible about, but yeah, I still did it and was careful and stuff. But I wouldn't recommend anyone do that. I'm
Yeah.
just crazy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just something I love.
So we've touched on a lot of, I mean, you're getting to like the main point of what you're saying is like, it is not a forced thing. It is not a
Oh
obligation. It
no.
is something that you genuinely love. If
Mm.
someone, a lot of what we've talked about already will already apply to this question, and we can kind of zoom through it if you want. But for somebody who might be struggling with staying on track, showing up every day, or even 3 days a week or 2 days a week, whatever their amount is, for someone who's struggling to keep going and to get started and to maintain that momentum,
Mhm.
what advice would you provide to them?
I would always say just baby steps, and even whether that's just starting off training that day, like literally, because of course they, I'm only human. There's days where I'm aching or I'm tired, and I'm just like, I just
Mm-hmm.
want to sit in bed and I want to do nothing. I don't want to, but there's days that I do get like that, of course, because I'm only human. But I'll go no, because I enjoy this and I want to do it. So let's go, and it'll literally just be like, right, okay, get your training gear on, right? Okay, set up your mat, right? Okay, get your ropes out, and yeah, okay, right. Do your warm up stretches and routine, right? Okay, okay, right. We're ready. Let's just do a couple jumps, and then it's straight away. I'm
Yep.
I'm off. I'm literally like once that first revolution's gone, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, here we go, and then that's it. And just making it fun, make it. I'm constantly on the lookout for music. Music's really big with me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I jump to all sorts, but uh, finding new music or music that you enjoy that gets you excited, just to move your body, anything, new music, learning new tricks, trying to beat a PB if you're into that kind of training, or changing your workout routine. Like if you train in like, if you're doing more endurance training, then maybe switch it up a bit, do some speed training or do like hit training, make it
Make it
so
fun.
that it's,
Change it up.
yeah, make it
Change
fun.
the stimulus. Yeah.
Exactly. Like I've had, I've done it. I've had to do it just to make it fun and exciting. And otherwise, if it's not fun, it's not sustainable for me. So if
Yep.
if you're having fun, then it, you know, then that's the battle. See, I told you it was my ringtone.
This is I honestly, I really kind of didn't believe you. I thought it was just a joke. The Rocky
No,
theme song was your. That was amazing. That was
you
you.
have to keep that in now.
Yeah. Did you plan that? That was really good.
No, that was literally a phone call or someone. But see, it
Well,
wasn't
it's
mine. But
it. What you're saying though really is, I think, important because this is only a 1 hour, maybe a little longer, snapshot of you explaining years and years of time, right? And I think
yeah,
what can easily get lost in the audio medium in a
mm,
podcast is the realness that comes along with 3 years of jumping. And the truth is, you love it. It's that is absolutely 100% the case, but that doesn't mean that you don't have bumps and obstacles along the way, and like you're saying, like some days you just are like, I don't want to warm up, I don't want to do these things, I don't want to do this whole process. But I think it's really cool that you're explaining and kind of highlighting that's the way that you get through it, is just one step at a time. Do this stretch, do
yeah,
this stretch, let's take one jump, and once you take that jump and everything feels familiar again, you get rocking and rolling.
yeah. Like I could have stopped. Like I mentioned, like I sprained my ankle while jumping. It was after the 2 year anniversary, and like I could have stopped. I could have gone. Because literally when it happened, like I can go through how it happened if you want, but
Yeah.
it's obviously yep. So I was just I must have just learned how to do mambas. And like we've talked in the past, like I love film, and I love, with some of the like clips that I film, I love to make it as cinematic as possible. So of course I was throwing the handle towards the lens of the camera and stuff, and trying to make it as as cinematic as possible. And I kept getting it and getting it and getting it, but it just didn't, like, if it's not how it is in my head, like I'd just delete it and restart again. And I kept doing it and kept doing it because I just wanted it a certain way where like it looked a certain, when you've got that pitch in your head and you've just got to get it as close as you can to that. So I was doing it with a legacy rope, which is about a pound in weight.
Dude,
Um,
that's that's so heavy. Oh my gosh.
and the legacy rope has thick handles. It's literally like a miniature rolling
Yeah,
pin.
dude, doing a mama with that is like, I'm surprised you didn't get a concussion with that sprained ankle, dude.
So anyway, like every time I was nailing it, or if like how if you miss a mick that you're jumping into, it the handle lands on the floor and it's fine. You land and then you go again. But
I can see where this is
it
going.
it was a million to one shot where go to one side then the other, then I go into the side that I'm going to catch, reach out for it, I miss it, and then it just like it happens to one in a million shot land right underneath where my right foot is going to land. I land on the handle, and because it's like a rolling pin and because I'm doing it at speed, it literally rolls out from underneath me and it goes 90 degrees inwards, which if you don't, I think I showed you I think I sent it to you
I think
actually.
you did. Yeah, I can.
But
Oh, dude.
yeah, it went 90 degrees inwards, and then yeah, so I landed on the floor, and then it was one of those things where you're in shock and you don't even feel it. Like
Yeah.
I honestly didn't feel it at all. So went, right, okay, that sucked. And I went to stand up, and literally, I didn't even get like halfway up, and body was like, "Nope, sit your ass down."
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I had to literally get someone to pick me up because I couldn't walk home. And then like taking the shoe off. When you have that release of pressure because you've got a shoe
Mm-hmm.
around you.
And it was swollen
That
too.
Yeah, and then I started doing some mobility work on it straight away just to get blood to it. So doing like things with a resistance band just to get blood to it. Nothing where it was hurting, but just to get it moving. And then went to the A&E next day to get it scanned and stuff, just to see if anything was broken. The scan said no, it was just a really bad sprain. And literally, my first question was, "Can I jump on one leg?"
Yeah, right?
So I literally asked like the nurse. I was like, "Is it safe for me to like just jump on one leg for a bit and like not use the leg that's sprained?" And she was like, "I guess," but and I was like, "Okay." So of course, because I'm only jumping on one leg, I had to even it out on the other. So I was doing exercises on the other leg to balance it out and stuff. But it was just going slow on one leg for a couple of days. But then it was just okay. It kind of feels safe to do regular bounce. Yeah, okay, that feels safe. And then, okay, I can do most of the stuff, but leave some of the more explosive jumps like double unders for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then it was just slowly introducing it back, introducing like what I normally do back in, where it was like, okay, yeah, it feels okay. Let's try and do doubles. Yeah, okay, that feels fine. And then it was just back to normal, really. But yeah,
Okay, so this is going to be a hard right. I think this is probably the question that everyone has been wondering, and we're running up on an hour here, so I kind of want to begin to kind of wrap things up. But
sure.
the big question that I think anyone who knows of you or kind of knows you or has listened to this far of the podcast, what they want to know is, how do you embody zest as a coach?
Well, Nate, I think you're just born with it. I think, and I think me,
The zest life
I
chose you. Is
think,
that what you're saying?
yeah, it shows very few of us, but I think we are both one of those that are blessed with that ability. So I think we're just very. I think it's a combination, environment and I think part of it's nature and nurture. I think we're born with it and we grew with it as well. We acquired that sort of that skill.
You said at the beginning it does not feel like 3 years of jumping.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
So I think because of course what once was hard it isn't. So of course but then you start progressing even further. So your new normal, uh, you know, your new normal gets harder and harder basically. So what, is it, so it doesn't where I'm like, nothing gets my heart rate up like jump rope. And it, so the more that you're pushing yourself and the more that you're advancing this, that, and the other, like I say, what was what was hard to you when you started off is like easy. It's not even a warm up, so it's, it still feels new in some ways, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't, because like I say, there's times like when we've talked about, flow state and stuff, where it's just like it's so familiar and you just get lost in it and you're like, yeah, right, this, that, this, that, right,
Mm-hmm.
okay, yeah. um you mentioned how I automatically go to the deck step once I'm, in that sort of sort of state, but yeah, so it is and it isn't, but that's what's brilliant,
Yeah, it's really fun seeing how things have evolved for you over the past year. It's it, so you've been jump roping for a total of 3 years. You weren't jumping before then, correct? Not like the way you do now, basically.
So I started in April, and then basically I started every day June 15th. So
Gotcha.
I can't remember when in April. It was like maybe mid-April. So I've been doing it for 3 years and a bit, but every day I've been doing it for 3 years. So and of course that minor odd little bit in the past where I've maybe picked up a drum rope as a kid or whatever. But yeah, basically 3 years.
So we answered the question, what is jump rope to you, last time, but I'm wondering if anything has changed or been added to your answer about that.
Um,
And if not, that's totally fine. I'm just curious if you
I
would add
think
anything.
it's, for me, it's helped me learn things like dedication and just, like, and just putting everything into something. Like, I don't think I've ever been so dedicated to something, that I've literally gone whole hog into something where I've put so much time and effort. It's something where, it's constantly, there's not going to be a day where I'm not going to think or jump, or, it's, even when I finish jumping, I'm on Instagram looking at other people jumping, and it's
Mm-hmm.
constant for me. But like I've already gone on and said, I love it, and there's nothing that I've ever been more disciplined to and dedicated to. So yeah, nothing's changed, and if anything, I've grown to love it even more.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Even after 3 years, you just it's never ending, it literally it's not gonna stop giving you things to do and to practice, which is
And
amazing.
it's funny that you mentioned that, because some people around the year 2 year mark, people were asking me like, "Oh, when are you gonna stop? Or when are you gonna
Mm-hmm.
take a day off?" But to me, that was kind of like saying, "When are you gonna give up?" Like,
Mm.
to me, that's like, well, no, I love it. Like, I'm gonna keep going, and as long as I'm enjoying it, then I'm gonna keep doing it. It's good for my mind more these days, and my body, and it's what I enjoy doing. It makes me happy, and so of course I'm going to do it a lot. It's something that makes me that happy.
Well, and the point is that, like, it's not an obligation. It's not that you're dreading it every day. It's not that you feel like you have to go do this thing. It's that it's
Mm,
it's giving you so much every time you show up. And that's why
yeah,
you keep going, is because it's like, well, when are you going to stop eating? Like,
yeah,
or like, when are you going to, like, choose not to go to sleep? Like that,
mm,
even though you are working your body, it in a lot of respects seems like, and I think many people would agree, it is like rest, it is like sleep, it is like sustenance, but in a different form.
mm, exactly.
Yeah, dude, this has been really good. This has been a fun. This is a, I tend to always plan podcasts in terms of, I have my own, bullet points and lists, and that from the last one. But this is
Mm.
probably, I think, the first one where I have gone completely free and have not planned any of it. And this has been such a good time, dude. I'm really genuinely impressed with all of the stuff that you have accomplished in this year, Mark. I mean, it is pretty tremendous, dude, and I have a lot of respect for you.
Well, I have a lot of respect for you, and I think you're incredible. And yeah, I can't wait to meet you, dude. Like I was hoping to meet you this year, but unfortunately it's gonna look like next year. But we'll definitely meet up, dude. We're
Oh,
definitely gonna make that happen.
dude, absolutely. Yeah. Once we get the green light and everything is cleared, it's going down.
Yeah.
All right, dude. I'm gonna let you get back to your day, but this has been another really, really solid chat. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, before you go, I just wanted to say one last thing. One of my main goals for this podcast is to share the stories, of other jumpers and provide a full picture about everything that's possible with the jump rope. The more people that hear this, the better. And it would really help me out if you sent this podcast to somebody you know, whether in real life or digitally on Instagram, Facebook, whatever platform you use. It would mean the world to me. So that's it. I hope you have a great rest of your day, night, lunch, evening, whatever time it is for you right now. See you later.